an interesting point that there are certainly differences when it comes to league and rugby, isn't there? Though a lot of people, and I'll tell you what, and in my mind certainly, I prefer to play league and watch league than rugby because it just is so stop-start, eh?
What stop start?
Rugby.
Oh, look, it is what it is. I mean, people have their own preferences, and I'm not going to rubbish one for liking one and not the other. It's I just prefer league, always have and always will. And in regards to the Rugby World Cup, we get to watch it here on Foxtel. So I did at the end of last night's NRL game switch over, watch the end of the Russia-Japan game, and I'll probably do it the same tonight because my team's playing a bit the similar time as the All Blacks. But yeah, I'll definitely watch a little bit later as it gets towards the point again, like the semi-finals and the final. And I used to watch the haka religiously in the anthem, but even the haka has gone to the pack, in my opinion, these days. But mate, it's teach their own. People like rugby, people like rugby league, people like soccer. So it is what it is, and good luck to you.
Now, boy, what an opening match though, eh? What an opening night. Also, I've just saw on Facebook that some of the Japanese were practicing doing the Russian national anthem to help support rugby, and that's just really awesome, isn't it, Reno?
Yeah, it is, mate. The whole thing's yes, we know it's about the game and the field stuff, but off the field, mate, their country's just doing so much to make it culturally, there. The opening itself, when they showed the characters coming out, reminiscing on the volcanoes and everything. You can see modern technology. Why wouldn't you when you think of Japan and the Asian country? First Asian country in Rugby World Cup history to host this event.
Yeah.
And they turned on a great little opening there. And, I still remember in my head watching it when they came around announcing the countries, the 20 countries who made up this tournament, got to New Zealand. The crowd was just blowing, it was crazy. So, it was good. I enjoyed the opening, mate. Short, sharp and simple. And had the two gentlemen opening up at the end there, and the Japanese man, and very culturally, it's big, it's massive,
huge. What did you reckon, Ra?
Yeah, and, good on the Japanese. As we know, as a people, they don't do things by halves, which is why they're probably one of the more wealthier countries in the world. And, that's how meticulous they are. They like to break down something and try and find out how to put it all back together again. Sadly, they haven't done that with rugby yet, but you give them a few years and they may sort of get somewhere near the top. But I think against them is the fact that they're not a very big people, even though we see a lot of sumo wrestlers, who are the size of some of our props, etc. That would probably count against them, even though they reckon the average Japanese is growing, because of the European diets. But that's a sort of something for the future. But no, good on them as a country, and the first Asian country. So he's hoping it spreads the game in that particular part of the world. I reckon you give it to China next, they'll just take it away.
Well, I love that. And let's talk about the game, because it was one heck of a game. It started off so well. What did you think of the game itself there, Reno?
Yeah, good game, mate. I tried to stay awake, and I'm going to be honest here, I fell asleep because I've been busy, like you talked about right at the start, and I watched the opening and watched the first, say, 20 minutes of the game, and I just couldn't keep my eyelids open, mate. They got the better of me, so I only saw that part of it. I did see the end result, but Rowan must really be able to tell you more, bro. Sorry, but yeah, I've just been tired.
What did you reckon of the game, Rowan?
Yeah, I actually enjoyed it for first a hit out, and no doubt the Japanese crowd did as well. They were right behind their side, and I've never seen Russia play before, so that's always interesting to see a newbie country. And look, they weren't too bad. I think rugby back in the old days in the Soviet Union was dominated by a lot of military personnel, so there's some really big boys there. But after communism kind of subsided a little bit, they've just gone back to who they've got left in terms of a player base. So, the game is taking off over there, and even though they lost to the Japanese, I think, there's sort of good things for their country, but good on the Japanese, a great start. Here's hope they can go all the way. It'll be great for their nation.
I mean, they're scrummaging for a start. I mean, I guess we can point to there, because obviously they play against other countries such as like Romania and those sort of countries, Georgia, where they're traditionally strong in the scrum and in the forward, pretty much up front, aren't they? And so, after they scored when the Russians scored their try, which is the opening try. That kind of sent I think a bit of nervousness. I wouldn't say panic, but it was a little bit of panic in the Japanese ranks there for a little bit there, eh?
Yeah, Keithy. I mean, even I was sort of taken by surprise. I thought the Japs would dominate from kickoff, but the Russians came out of nowhere and they pulled one out of the hat. So, good on them, but it didn't last, sadly, once the Japs got up their momentum and a lot of their sort of import kind of players who are now, Japanese nationality, they ended up taking the match. But, look, good to see. And, from the minnows of World Rugby, that's what it's all about. I'm glad it wasn't a kick affair, and he's hoping that the tournament itself carries on in that same light.
Yes, that's very true. It wasn't a kick affair, wasn't it? Was it? It was really a lot of up front, especially from the Russians in particular. They were trying to carry the ball up front, and not just that, but the Japanese were trying to get in behind the Russian defense, which suits more their game and was quite dynamic at times, wasn't it?
Well, they got Jamie Joseph as the coach of the Japanese Kiwis, so maybe that little bit of all-back influence. And as for the Russians, I think they had a Scottish joker, so, that didn't sort of impact on their play. They tended to throw it around like how we play down south here, so Good to see. Not that Northern Hemisphere style, that is boring.
That truly is. I'll tell you what, though, was a really good game. At the end of the day, obviously, both teams, I think, can be very, very proud of what they've done for rugby. But I know, without doubt, Japan really, really happy about coming away with the win. Even though it wasn't the greatest, there was a lot of errors from both teams. But and obviously the fitness with the Russians, I thought, needed a bit of helping out, eh?
Well, they weren't rushing around too much after the match. They looked a little bit, on the tired side, the old Ruskies. But look, they'll learn. It's all sort of an evolving kind of experience for these minnow teams, especially, sides like Russia. But the Japanese have been there, done that so many times. They should have some sort of decorum and knowledge of the game. And when you've got that Kiwi coach run in the mix and, a few expat Kiwis as well and foreign players, they should actually play a lot better. So, as I said, hopefully they can go the distance. It'll be great for rugby in Japan and great for rugby, for the lesser-known countries.
Today, Reno, Fiji, Aussie, should be a good game, eh? I think you're predicting Fiji will win. Is that right?
Yeah, mate. Yeah, I want to see an upset, eh? I want to see Michael Cheika throw all his toys out the cot and we have a good laugh at him up in the coach's box. I don't want the Wallabies to fall over, Rakels and the Wobblies, and I'm hoping that's what's going to happen to them. So it's a bit of a bulla for me, mate. I hope they can run rampant and really do it to them because once the Wallabies get a bit of a heads up in this World Cup, remember, look, they were finalists 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. They were hopeless at Super Rugby building up to that.
Yeah.
So, I want the Bulla boys to knock them around, man.
What do you reckon, Ra?
Oh, yeah, in fact, I tend to bandy around your phrase quite a bit, Keithy. I hope they carve them up.
Okay.
And they, do it well. And, look, it's going to be a great match. And we can expect that from the Bulla boys, to pull that proverbial rabbit out of the hat. And, they can beat the Wobblies on the day, I reckon, if, because these are the first up matches. If you can set that tone and lay that foundation, they could sneak up on the Wobblies and make them wobble and knock them over. But that'll be a watch the space, and they've got to do it from kickoff. If not, the Wallabies, they're just going to sort of run riot over them.
France and Argentina, Reno?
Mate, I want to be in the crowd. You know this.
Yes.
I want to be in there for certain reasons, and it's not the rugby. Yeah, I think the Argentinians, what they've shown through Super Rugby and the Jaguares and in the recent international series, I've got to go the Argentinians. Support the Southern Hemisphere teams.
What about you, Ra?
Well, Ren's right about one thing. When you get two Latin countries like that up against each other, some of their senoritas are quite easy on the eye. And look, I tell you, they're quite boisterous fans too. You see that in soccer, and rugby's no different. But on the field antics, yeah, I think it's going to be a good match, and always good to see a couple of non-English speaking sides sort of take on each other, and we'll just have to see what the outcome is. But it could go either way probably.
Now, for the All Blacks South African game, I'm actually going to put money. Still haven't. I just remembered that I'm going to put money on a draw against the South Africans and the All Blacks. What do you think? First off, Rino?
Yeah, mate. It is the big game. It's what we look forward to. The build up to this. Pressure's on us. I know I talked about South Africa. Mate, I'm All Blacks all the way through and through. I've got my All Black beanie hat on today. So, all the way, mate. All the way.
Ra?
Well, not that we endorse gambling of any type, shape or form, Keithy, but no, I'm going to go with our boys to put up a reasonable score. I won't say a big score. I'd like to see a big score, but I think the first up match and, given what's been happening over there so far in terms of the start of the tournament, I think our team will play it closer to the chest. But, if they do those basics right and they get that flow on going, well, I think a draw will be furthest in their minds. It could even be quite a good score, I hope.
Okay.
Thank you for doing that.
Well, we're going to go to a break. We'll be back with more Full Time right after this. On behalf of the full-timers, I would just like to say big thanks to Joachim Currid, who brings us our music intro. Check him out on joachimcurrid.com. He's also on YouTube, Twitter, SoundCloud, Bandcamp, Spotify, Instagram, and follow him on Facebook. Another big thanks goes out to Silent Partner, who brings us our outro. Check out their music on YouTube. And also thanks must go to the Polish Ambassador for the backing music for this promo. Check out the Polish Ambassador on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, Beatport, Instagram, Twitter, and on his website, thepolishambassador.com.
You're listening to a podcast produced by Tūrangi FM, number one iwi radio station in Aotearoa. We play each full-time session on Tūrangi FM Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. You can listen in live on our Tūrangi FM media page. Just click the main Tūrangi FM logo to tune in online. Or if you're in the Gisborne area, we're on the radio frequencies 91.7, 95.7 and 98.1. Also check out the Full-Time Facebook page where you can listen to the podcast again. Make comments and click links that will lead you to other ways to listen to the podcast, such as Spreaker, iTunes, SoundCloud, Twitter, YouTube, Podchaser and Tumblr. Right, let's get back to the Fools on Full-Time.
Second session here on Full Time. Want to send another shout out, of course, going out to our sponsors, Racecrack Motors. They are down there on Grey Street. Now, boy, one heck of a rugby league game was had last night between South Rabittohs and also the Manly Sea Eagles. Boy, one heck of a game, JT.
Mate, a cracker game, and it wouldn't be a game of rugby league without controversy. And of course, the referees came into their own again last night late, and I think gifted South Sydney a win. 12-point turnaround with one of the hardest working players we'll ever find on a rugby league field. Jake Trebojevic sin bin for what I think was an absolute joke. A penalty, yes, but definitely not a sin bin offence. That's absolute turning point of the game, and it cost them their season. And Desi Hasler was blowing up big time after the game, but it is what it is. Move on and. See you next year, boys. Like Jeff Moses said, come and sit next to us, Manly.
What did you reckon, Reno?
Yeah, mate, I tell you what, I saw the build-up to the game, and I saw the Fox League build-up, promotional advertising, everything, because the NRL